The Walt Disney Company is in more trouble than many want to admit, especially in the journalism profession that has protected Disney for so long. In reality, a pattern of bad behavior, creative malfeasance, if you will, has led to a point where the House of Mouse is having to get rid of many of its residents. We're talking about those beloved cast members, employees, those who work for the company. It's not just content that is having its cadence cut. It's in fact the very people who bring the magic to you and me. We'll get into it, as well as receipts that we've been saying this was coming. Explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do each and every day here on the WDW Pro channel. Sometimes that means we have to cover news that's not necessarily fun. This is one of those situations. We have to talk about the Disney layoffs that are coming. And these layoffs, in my opinion, are the result of bad decisions over a long period of time. A pattern at the Walt Disney Company that does not seem to be ceasing. Yes, there may be some joy and some optimism with the exit of Victoria Alonso from the MCU, who, being the major architect of the Phase 5 dive, and before that, the Phase 4, what some call MCU, it still is not enough to indicate that Disney is on a better track, on a better path. And the reason for that is because as Robert Iger moved the company far to the left, prior to the Democratic primaries in which he considered running and therefore needed to use Disney as a vehicle, allegedly, for his political ambitions, because he did that, he brought in so many people into the company who are ideologically driven, politically driven, and socioculturally driven, rather than having a vested interest in the merit and the product of the company at large. This has resulted in what we have witnessed over the last few years, which is a Disney company that is largely out of touch and off base with the market, with society, with their customers. Certainly not on the right track when it comes to parents and what they want in the eyeballs of their children. Consider for a moment that if someone came to your door and said, "Hi, I would like to come inside your home and teach your children about highly divisive content, highly divisive ideas regarding race." Well, you would tell them to get off your front porch and leave. Or what if someone came to your front door and said, "Hello, I would like to teach your children about orientations when it comes to issues of the bedroom. Do you have any young kids around?" You'd say, "Get out of here, you weirdo." And yet that's what Disney has done when it comes to Disney Plus. They don't have to come knock on your front door. They're already in your house. They're already in there. And for those of you who don't know some of the stuff that appears on Disney Plus, I can't blame you. It's hard to keep track of all the stuff that's out there in the media. And most people have come to love and trust Disney over the many, many decades of its existence. Who wouldn't? Uncle Walt was great. Yet the current modern Disney is, it's a bit problematic. It's not that it can't produce good content, it can, but oftentimes it's producing content for young children that just is inappropriate. It's not that we should avoid topics like what I've just mentioned in regards to orientation issues or issues of race. All of those are fine and legitimate conversations to have, and they're appropriate for media, but they're not appropriate probably for 4-year-olds. More importantly, they're not appropriate when parents don't know that that's the material entering into the eyeballs and the minds of their small children. That's probably inside the purview of parenthood, not of this new Mickey Mouse, who is unlike the old Mickey Mouse. Now, I mentioned that these layoffs were coming quite a while ago. Let's go ahead and roll that clip so everybody can hear what we had to say back then. Something that's been sent my way now by 3 different sources, and I want to clarify that this is rumor. I can't verify this yet, but when you get 3 different sources telling you something, it's worth noting it, that there's the potential up ahead for more layoffs. We know that Disney has done 1 round of layoffs, and I'm hearing that potentially there's more on the way. Valiant, I'm particularly interested what you think in terms of this drop in content and content reception, in terms of the audiences exiting from everything to do with Disney. And we don't know where this is going to stop. We don't know if it's going to metastasize into their theme parks or et cetera. How much do you think this, with The Mandalorian, with Disney Plus ratings falling off a cliff, Marvel, et cetera, how much do you think that's impacting the outlook for Disney in terms of personnel?
It's hard to say. I mean, of course, Disney Plus is the black hole where Disney throws all of its losses, right? So we lose money or we just barely break even on whatever the next MCU film is, like they've been doing the last couple of years. We're going to dump that off into Disney Plus and we'll bury the losses in there. That's how they do it, right? It's an accounting shift. So normally what you do is you would look at a company, if you're going to have more layoffs, and then you would try to look at where do we have the most bloat, or what are the sectors that just aren't performing that well. That's the most likely places that you're going to trim the fat. Places like parks and experiences, places like linear broadcast TV, while they're going to have some layoffs, you would tend to think under normal auspices that they would be relatively, and I mean that term, loosely, relatively safe, right? They're going to see some, but they're not going to see 20,000. It's highly unlikely they're going to cut 20,000 jobs from parks and experiences, especially in places like Orlando, which is their cash machine, above and beyond all the other parks they have. Where then would they cut? Might they cut in Disneyland? Might they cut in Disney World Paris or whatever they call it, Euro Disney? That's possible. They may cut down staff in terms of their actual operating offices in Burbank. They may cut down some staff in certain studios. I've been saying for the longest time, what makes a lot of sense would be a consolidation between Disney Animation and Pixar. Makes no sense to have two studios making almost exactly the same content.
Crap.
It looks.
I'm sorry. Content.
Yes,
that's right. I'm
yes,
sorry.
The same crap. It looks the same. It sounds the same. I can't tell that right now. Nobody out there could tell me who's making Elemental this summer. I mean, except for people that already know what it is. Is it Pixar or is it Disney?
Yeah.
You can't tell them apart. There's no reason to have these two corporate entities. You can trim the fat there.
Sure, but what I would say here is I think that the real enemy is apathy. When you've got fans who they're not even mad anymore, they just don't care. That is absolute poison to an IP,
Yep.
and they've got to counter that.
And folks, although I do not take any joy in being correct when it comes to this situation, I wish all of these people could maintain their jobs. This is the consequence of a Disney out of control. This is the consequence of a Disney that cannot maintain content within the parameters of being appropriate. And so let's dive into what this looks like in terms of these layoffs, how bad it's going to be. As we do, take note of how the media presents it versus how we just presented it when we exclusively broke it right here on the WDW Pro channel. Again, you come here to find out what the Access and Legacy media will be talking about tomorrow. Before we get into this article from Cinema Blend by Dirk Libby, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and remember, you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about notification bell. Drop a comment down below. We covet those comments and we care about your thoughts. The Pro Show, 5 to 7 p.m. every Thursday. The first one was a great success, although the beginning was quite funny. But make sure you tune in every Thursday, 5 to 7, whether it's your drive home or if it's the end of your day at work. We'll be there to help you have a good time. All right, let's get into this. Major Disney layoffs are coming. It's being described as a bloodbath. Don't you love the way they phrase this stuff to get the clicks? Disney announced major layoffs last month, and it looks like they will be hitting cast members soon. In the last couple of months, we've seen significant layoffs hit nearly every sector of the economy. That's called shifting the blame, folks. We're trying to frame this already with the very first sentence so that we shift the blame off Disney and say, layoffs are coming to everybody. It's not Disney's fault. Let's continue on. And at this point, it's clear that no company is safe. Again, shift that blame off of Disney. Even the massive juggernaut that is the Walt Disney Company is planning a huge layoff, about 7,000 jobs, and the cuts are likely to begin soon. Now, here's something to note about this paragraph. Yes, we've already found out that Disney is planning 7,000 job cuts. That was not a surprise. What's being reported, this was originally reported on Bloomberg behind a paywall, is that there are additional cuts on the way. That's the rumor. And that's also what we had heard, that there's more on the way. Insiders have spoken to Deadline and revealed that the layoffs are expected to take place in multiple rounds, with the first round looking to happen at the end of next week. The bulk of the layoffs, however, what some are calling the bloodbath, are set to take place in late April. And so, folks, if you're wondering why we put that in the thumbnail in the description of this video. Well, we had to. It's what the media is calling it, so we got to report on it. There may or may not be a third round of layoffs. Some sources are apparently expecting a round of layoffs between these two. Others think a third round could come after the big one in April, but only if the company deems it necessary. It's unclear whether that means the full 7,000 cuts will be done by April and more could happen if needed, or if the company might ultimately decide to cut fewer jobs. The layoffs will trim about 3% of Disney's total workforce, and from all reports, will cover all segments of Disney's business. Managers responsible for deciding which positions to target for layoffs have reportedly submitted those reports. Now it's simply a question of thousands of Disney cast members waiting to see if they still have a job. Now note that if this number goes higher than the 7,000, which is what we anticipate, then also this percentage of total workforce will increase. So it may not be 3%, it may be 5%, it may be 6% of Disney's total workforce being eliminated as having jobs. It's also interesting to note that we've heard reports that managers have received a new round of requests to find more people to fire. And so that would seem to indicate that indeed we are going to go above that 7,000, above that 3%. Now, all of this is very interesting in the context of this article from DisNews. Union representing Disney World cast members reached tentative agreement over wages. Here's why this is interesting. It's being hailed as a great success that the union for the cast members has managed to increase the minimum wage for Walt Disney World to $18. And surely, if you are a cast member going to receive that raise, it's wonderful for you, and I'm very pleased about it for you. I'm also exceedingly happy that you're going to receive retroactive pay. That's quite impressive. I can't believe that Disney gave into that. The people who work for Disney World are going to get a major check coming to them soon based on all of that retroactive pay coming in, in the near future, we hope. And so your bank account should be bigger, and we're very pleased for you. That said, there is a downside to this that we do need to discuss. It's important. Let's read the article first, and then we'll explain in the context of Disney cutting jobs. This article by Jackie Gailey, union representing Disney World cast members reached tentative agreement over wages, says, Unite Here, Local 362, the union that represents Walt Disney World cast members, has confirmed that a tentative agreement was reached Thursday afternoon with Disney to raise cast members to a wage of $18 per hour. Here's the update. Here's the outline of the new contract between unions and Walt Disney World. Union members will vote next week to officially accept this new contract offer, which includes minimum pay of $18 to start and retroactive pay going all the way back to October. And all of that is per the unions. Here's the statement received from Walt Disney World. Our cast members are central to Walt Disney World's enduring magic, which is why we are pleased to have reached this tentative agreement. Disney is proud to offer an industry-leading employment package that includes comprehensive benefits and affordable medical coverage, in addition to 100% paid tuition for higher education for hourly employees through the Disney Aspire program. With the support of the unions, we anticipate cast members will approve this new agreement. Now, here is where we get to my concern. My concern is that if this minimum wage is indeed increased to $18, and I suspect it will be, and if retroactive pay is initiated, and I suspect that is also the case, I don't suspect that Disney is going to want to greatly increase their expenditures for Walt Disney World when it comes to paying personnel. And you might say, well, Pro, how in the world could you believe that? I mean, other than, obviously businesses don't want to spend additional money beyond what's required, but Disney has made this agreement. Why would they not be interested in paying out more? That seems to be a direct consequence, correct? And the answer to that question is, unfortunately, no, it's not a direct consequence. Because although the amount of money being paid out per hour is certainly, looks by all likelihood to increase at this point, the unfortunate side of that is that Disney can offset increasing that hourly wage increase by decreasing the number of people who work at Walt Disney World. And so let's say that the percentage cuts are proportional to the at Disney World to the rest of the Disney company. Let's say that there's a 6%. If we assume that the layoffs at 3% are the original 7,000, and then there are more coming, or let's make the math easy. Let's assume that it's 5%. If 5% of all of Walt Disney World's cast members are let go, and we assume that won't be the frontliners, by the way. We assume that will be people at the nicer positions, a little bit higher up, the people who have really invested their time and worked hard to rise up in Disney World. But if 5% of the jobs overall at Walt Disney World are cut, And if those also came with additional benefits that provide Disney with more savings by cutting those jobs, then it may be that with that 5% reduction in personnel, that Disney really isn't paying out much more at all in terms of personnel costs. Because what will happen instead is they'll pay more to fewer people. And the difficult thing about this is, sure, maybe there are too many people hired for Walt Disney World. I don't think that's the case because Disney's had staffing issues, and it seems that everybody's working like crazy already and very stressed. And my concern is that as we cut those positions and compensate for this hourly rate increase, that the stress levels will also increase, and potentially the experience for guests and the experience for cast members will decrease as a result. That's not in anybody's interest. And the reason that I have this lack of faith in Disney is that this seems to go back. If we check out this tweet from Braden, at Sir Braden, I love this tweet, and he actually was able to give me some information that I did not have about the Mary Poppins ride at Epcot. I had either exclusively revealed it or been one of the first. It's hard to say exactly, but it was really, really close to reveal that there was a Mary Poppins ride in development at Walt Disney World for Epcot. This was before the worldwide situation we went through and before budgets were slashed. And the excitement I had for this ride was really high. I mean, it wasn't an E-level attraction, right? It wasn't the top of the top. It was not a Splash Mountain. It was not a Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, or was not Rise of the Resistance. But it was a nice ride. What I had seen was a double-decker carousel that actually wasn't a carousel. It was a trick. And the very clever design allowed those horses that you were riding on, or in some cases carriages, in some cases other crazy animals, but allowed them to exit the carousel with you on them. They were actually attached to vehicles underneath that you couldn't see. And it would take you through a very small show building that used different projectors to create different scenes so that this could repeat 2 or 3 times. And then you went back onto the carousel, and it seemed like you were riding a carousel again. It was a really cool idea. I loved it. And even though it was not full on the biggest thing ever, it was a nice and thematically appropriate attraction. What we found out was, per Sir Braden, that in fact, Disney, even prior to the budget cuts being necessitated, had stripped this ride down to being a very low budget, very poorly conceived teacups ride, which was absolutely unimpressive in every way. And yet Disney presented the Mary Poppins attraction when they were doing their D23 Expo in 2019 as if it was some major ride coming to Epcot. That's why I do not trust Disney, and especially Disney parks. Although some of you may say, well, that was the Bob Chapek era. Fair enough, but who was in charge of Disney parks at the time? Josh D'Amaro. And who is still in charge of Disney parks today? Josh D'Amaro. Yes, he may be a person who comes across with great a great presence, and he may have all of the gravitas that you would want in a high-level executive at Disney. But that does not mean that he is necessarily the greatest person when it comes to delivering proper guest experience and cast member experience. People love Josh D'Amaro for some reason, and I don't have anything personally against him. But I'm also not going to put extra faith in Disney World and its very highest levels of leadership to keep as many people as possible, because it doesn't seem that they ever care about that nearly as much as they do about particular budget items. Here's what Braden had to say. Boggles the mind how seemingly intentional Disney is in letting fans down. They knew Mary Poppins was a teacup ride. They had art. Chapek did not show it, instead pretending it was a big mystery attraction. There's nothing wrong with teacups. What's wrong is the bait and switch. And I agree with that. But I also agree that they had much better options. They had much better concepts, and they chose to go with something that was stripped down bare and very cheap. I'm glad that the Mary Poppins ride was canceled. I wish they would be able to cancel cutting as many jobs now as I think they are going to. But a series and pattern of bad behaviors, such as the Mary Poppins thing, such as the content they've been putting on Disney Plus, all have precipitated this situation that we're in. And the media is coming around to it now. The news publications are beginning to realize that Disney is not in the healthy position that it once was. The company was once the king of media. Perhaps they would want you to say the queen. Undeniably the biggest and baddest behemoth there was when it came to family entertainment. Slowly, Disney has slipped off. They pushed into ideologies, and they've cost themselves a premier position at the top of the Pareto principle. And instead, now they stand at the precipice of slipping off and letting the competition take the lead. And the unfortunate victims of all that are both the cast members and the guests, who will wonder where all the cast members have gone. I am exceedingly happy that cast members who continue to work at Disney will receive a pay raise, and I hope that continues. Cast members deliver the magic at the parks. There's no doubt about it. But I also will be thinking of the people who are about to lose their positions, who love their positions, and will have to find new work elsewhere that they may not enjoy so much. And to them, I say that I hope you land on your feet and that you have a wonderful journey, even if this one has been rocky and bumpy instead. Layoffs are an unfortunate part of a company that's making bad decisions. That's not always the case, but it usually is. And in Disney's case, well, it certainly is. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and remember, you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about that notification bell. We covet your comments, so please drop one down below and let us know what you're thinking. We read them, we respond. It's not just me, it's an entire team of That Park Place writers. Oh, and by the way, That Park Place has relaunched after months of really having a difficult time with our former server company that seemed to not want us around for whatever reason. I think it had something to do with us putting out news that they didn't want to be associated with, that being leaking out big-time information about Hollywood. Maybe they had investors. I don't know. That's all speculation. But upon moving to a new company with upgraded servers, we are now rocking at lightning-fast speeds, and we're going to be turning on all kinds of new features. We are back to the way it was in the beginning when that website was absolutely exploding. And we hope you'll participate in that. Make sure to add thatparkplace.com to the list of places that you visit each and every day on the web to find out all the news that should be fun. Folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and you better believe, keep having fun.